Okay, everyone. Thank you. Welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Brilliance and Commerce. House of Freedom Trust, November 7th, 2018. Webinar number 11 in our series. Thank you for joining us. This is Tansen. We have a number of programs from Brilliance and Commerce, a project of La Verite, which means the truth, House of Freedom International Natural Law Trusts, Liberty Debt Elimination System, affiliations and special offers, wealth building systems, credit repair, gold purchasing concierge, offshore asset protection, Monaco Management Group, wealth management, cryptocurrencies, and so on. You may be pleased to know we now have a new designation. We are members of a United Nations organization called the International Business Standards Organization, and we're signatories to the Worldwide Charter for Fair International Commerce. And you can see here, for those of you who have video, the certificate granted to Brilliance and Commerce as members and signatory of the International Business Standards Organization and the Worldwide Charter for Fair International Commerce. This is now on our website, so those of you who haven't seen it yet, you may like to check it out. This organization champions integrity in business. And so you'll see a whole list there of 9 principles. As a minimum standard, comply with all applicable local statute or state, provincial, and federal laws and regulations, and so on. And then it goes into ethics, and fair dealing and all that. So you can read that over. Today is November 7th, 2018. We're doing the Trust webinar with our illustrious speaker, Randall Hillner. And we're going to skip December for the next webinar. So next will be January 9th, 2019. So enjoy a very nice holiday season, everyone. This particular webinar today will be our last for 2018. Also, for past webinars, we now have a special link that directly shows it points to the page on YouTube where all our videos are. And that's called brilliance-videos.com. So you'll see that on the screen for those of you who have video. Brilliance-videos.com. For those of you listening by phone and need a later reference and don't have any access, for those of you who did not have an affiliate and need some way to connect, we are at house-of-freedom-trust.com. House of Freedom Trust with dashes between the words.com. But we prefer if you had an affiliate who is your introducer to us to instead use that affiliate's link, please. We also have the Brilliance and Commerce newsletter. For those of you already receiving it, you understand that. For those who have not yet subscribed, go to the website and click at the top where it says newsletter sign up. For those of you who do not have access to the internet or prefer telephone, we do have the phone number 360-200-7521. My name is Tansen Fairmont. I'm the founder of Brilliance and Commerce, member of the Board of Advisors of Monaco Management Group, and a speaker on radio shows, former offshore investment seminars, author of Sovereignty Consciousness and Cosmic Renaissance. The topic, as you may know, is International Natural Law Trusts. We are the ones who designated the name natural law. It would not be advisable to go to an attorney and say, do you deal with natural law trusts? It would not be advisable to go to a bank and ask them if you deal with natural law trusts. That is a term between you and me. It's between us, okay? It's a respect for the universal law that governs the universe. And it is that respect that makes this one of the best trusts in the world, and that makes it one of the easiest for everyone to use without problems, without conflicts. So we have a brotherhood, a sisterhood, an international fellowship of friends, family members, associates, partners, affiliates, trustees, beneficiaries, grantors who understand the importance of a global standard that transcends local governments and a universal standard of law that transcends human laws and still harmonizes with the best of human laws in every jurisdiction without being subject to them, thereby leaving it sovereign. We like to say that this is a previously best kept secret of the super rich, that peaceful people are enjoying protected status in a state-of-the-art sovereign trust. So if you have one of these, understand, and if you don't have one of these, you may well soon enjoy the benefit of discovering that for generations, just a few thousand people, we're not talking millions, but just a few thousand worldwide have been quietly successful in this kind of arrangement where others thought it would be impossible. Impossible to be so successful in protecting assets, dealing with banks, dealing with investments, dealing with distributions to beneficiaries, and serious money, serious assets, serious endeavors in asset protection without the problems normally associated with statutory entities. Today's webinar is what the trust indenture does. So those of you who have a trust, you know what an indenture is. It's the core, the main body of the trust that describes what it is, what it's doing, what its purpose is, what its terms are. And that is a crafted instrument our illustrious trust writer, Randall, has been working on for decades. And many, many dozens of the world's greatest experts have contributed their intelligence into refining, changing, improving, upgrading, evolving this trust instrument, this indenture. And so it's extremely important for everyone, both newcomers as well as seasoned trust operators, to clearly understand what this indenture is, what it does, what it's for, and how to relate to it. Perhaps even feel the freedom to make a few minor changes in your own trust as long as it continues to maintain the integrity of the main principles. Randall Hillner is our speaker. He's, as you may know, director of our trust department, founder of the House of Freedom Trust, White Light Unlimited, trustee of One People's Public Trust, and creator of the International Natural Law Trust. It is now very, very pleasurable to introduce you and unmute, turn the video on.
There we go.
Okay, you're on.
And the video.
There you go. How's that?
Oh, all right. So, welcome, everyone. It's an extreme pleasurable experience for me to be working with all of you and working with you as clients and potentially future clients. And Tanzan and I have been in and out of incredible experience to create a lot of these things that we can present to you. So I'm really glad to be here for this period of time.
Randall, can you turn your video on so at least the thumbnail is showing?
Oh.
There we go. Thank you.
Oh, well,
Very good. Thank you.
okay. Hey, who
Hey,
is that guy?
hey.
Jeez, he's ugly as mother. Okay, so I want to welcome all of you. I mean, this is such an experience for me to have the pleasure of working with clients that I've talked to over and over again on the phone, and the potential future clients that we're going to deal with on the long run. And it's really an amazing experience to I get to know a lot of you on a personal level, and it doesn't mean that I'm stealing anything from you or whatever, but the idea is that I'm here, like Tanzan is here we're both here to educate you on how to make this all work so that you have asset protection and you're outside the system and you have a contract between you and your friends, and it's a really delightful experience. So I guess I can talk a little bit more, but what I want to talk about today basically is I want to talk about the indenture. And if you have a trust already, then I would ask you to, pull that out, have it available, and we're going to go through it. And if you don't have it, don't worry about it, because I'm going to just give you a gist of how it all works and what it is, because basically it's a contract between you and two other people, two trustees, or at least one. And so that lead in, authorization, name, and location. Okay, so we're on. Okay, so authorization is who authorizes this contract. It's between you and the grantor, or you if you're not the grantor, and the trustees, and then the name, and then location of where it is. So the authorization is standard. It's right there at the top of the list. It authorizes, you say by signing at the end of the document that you authorize this document to be a irrevocable trust, and you understand the process behind it, and then you have the name and where it's located. So that's like first page, where it is, what's the name, and where's the location. And then it just goes on from there. So that's the standard process that you need to state that I authorize this contract between me and the trustees. And that's what gets you on the way. So it has to be, and it's stated when you get the authorization. The authorization basically is the fact that you have decided to create an irrevocable trust, which means you can't take back anything you've given into the trust. However, you will benefit from that long time down the road. The name is whatever you want to name it. The location is wherever you are right now, but that can be changed at any time. Anytime you move or you want to change a mailbox or whatever, that's simple. So authorization, I hereby now say I want this irrevocable trust, and the name is what it is, and the location at the present moment is where we are now. Okay, next. Who is the settler and who is the grantor and the granting of the terms? Okay, so the settler is, or grantor, these terms are interchangeably no problem. It's just same name for two different names for the same person. This is a person that either grants a trust or settles a trust, and that can be anybody. It can be a foreign, it can be a nominee grantor, it can be you as grantor. And let me go back a little bit in history. And when we started to do this, basically we had retired people that would come to us and say, okay, we want to create a trust so that we can take our assets and put them in a trust and then not have to worry about how the beneficial interest would go. And we've decided that. And so the settler or the grantor would come to us and we'd say, okay, well, then we have to get, trustees, etc. But the idea, the general idea was that this person or these people would want to create a contract so that they no longer own their assets, that they were going to turn their assets over to trustees, etc. And then they could go home and relax. And every month or every quarter or whatever, every so often, they would receive a beneficiary check. And then the granting of the terms is basically, okay, well, how do you want to do that? Do you want to do that on a monthly basis? Do you want to do that on a quarterly basis? Do you want to just do that? Okay, so you may have long-term investments and they only pay out every year. So every year, the trustees would say, okay, hey, Mr. Jim, we have a check for you for being beneficiary of this trust, and then he would pay it along. So that's how, in a sense, that goes. Okay? Okay, so the nature of the trust. God, that's a great image. The nature of the trust is, what do you intend and what do you want to see the purpose of this contract to be? So it could be for your benefit, present time. It could be for your children and or potentially for your grandchildren. That it's totally dependent upon you and what you have going in your life. It's really dynamic. And I was just talking to a client this morning, and she said, well, I said, look, what do you want? How do you want to make this whole thing work into the future? Let's not worry about present time. Let's not worry about, if you want to do present time, then that's okay too. But if you're looking to the future, then you're looking into a contract that will serve your children and grandchildren. She said, well, what if I put down my two children and then they have children? I said, well, then, you just go to the trustees and the trustees will say, okay, we're going to say that a certain percentage is going to come to you on a regular basis and a certain percentage is going to go to the grandchildren or great grandchildren, because what happens is that over a period of time, children are born, people die, people don't come in, and what you have to get is the nature of the trust, and the nature of this indenture is that it's for a long-term process. And so it never has to worry about probate, never has to worry about anything outside, but it has to do with your incredible vision, especially if you have vision, a visionary purpose. Then you want to have that as part of who the beneficiary is. And it just extrapolates from there, and you have to get that. I'm not going to say who I talked to this morning, but it was like, come on, this is your flexible. This is what happens is that I give you a document and I train you how to make this document work. And then it's up to you and the trustees to take this pretty flexible document, malleable document, and make it into who you want to be or who you want to have in that process. And as long as you stay within the construct of that intent, and you're fine. And it just goes on and on and on. So it's up to you. And I hope that all of you that watch this or see this or get this is that it's, oh, this is the visionary, this is the part of my life that I want to see have go on and on and on. Okay, just one. Another slide. Tanzan, you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Trustees, all right. This is kind of a delicate part because the trustees basically have you as the grantor. I'm going to use this example. Is you as grantor are going to have to choose two trustees, either a co-trustee or successor trustee. And they will basically have full control of your asset. Right. So first of all, you have to be willing to give up your asset, whatever it is, whether it's a $100 watch or it's $1 million estate. It doesn't really matter. It's the fact that you are going to now be separated from your assets. And what that means is that anything happens to you, that those assets are protected. So they have full authority to make sure that the intent of your trust, which is basically included in what we send to you, is substantiated, and they are under a fiduciary responsibility to make sure that the beneficiaries are taken care of. That's typically how a trust is done. Blind trust, whatever. All politicians we know have whatever. But the thing is that it's taken care of so that if something happens to you, those beneficiaries are always taken care of for long term or for whatever term they are. And the guide that they use is the trust document. And the trust document is about 13, 14 pages, and it really outlines what they're going to do, what their powers are, what their powers are, etc. And it's pretty definitive. I mean, it's a 13-page document, 14-page document, and it says, okay, the intent and purpose and trustees and their powers, their guide, and then their powers are not general, but they are limited. But in the document, it says specifically what they can do. And basically what they can do is pretty much whatever any normal person would do if they were running a business or a asset program, and they are responsible for that process to happen. And so their obligation, their fiduciary responsibility is to make sure that the beneficiaries are taken care of, long-term, short-term, whatever. So it all works out. And you sign the contract with you as grantor and the trustees, is that you now have a contract that spells out in pretty specific details with some ability to maneuver to the trustees and to yourself and to the beneficiaries. I mean, the powers are basically 2 pages long, so I don't want to go into that power stuff. Just know that basically whatever the trustees need to do can be done as long as it's legal and it serves the purpose of the trust intent and the beneficiaries. Okay, next. Meetings and duties. Okay, so if there's a lot of activity, then the trustees must come together and have a meeting. Okay, so that can be done either in presence. I had a client today said, "Oh, my trustee's over here." I said, "Well, come on, you can do Skype, you can do Facebook or Live Face or whatever, and you can do emails and that way." So in other words, you can have a trustee meeting over email or FaceTime or voice. I forget what it is. I used to talk to my son in
Conference calls
when he was in Dubai. We used to have I called him at 6 in the morning. It was 6 in the evening there, and we had face-to-face over, what's it called? Somebody? Voicemail? No. Anyway, whatever. So it doesn't matter. You can just pull it together and these things can be sent out through Skype. Skype, thank you very much, Cliff. You have the ability to pull this together, and it doesn't have to be in a face-to-face episode. In other words, it can be done in various ways. And I have a lot of clients that I say, "Okay, well, what is it that you want to do?" And they say this, and I say, "Well, write it down in an email and either send it to your trustees and get a response. And then you pull that response out, you print it out. If it's what you want, then you'll sign it in wet blue ink and maybe a thumbprint if it's really important to you, which is what I did in Europe all the time. And then you put it back into whoever it needs to go to, and it's done, and you record it. And so you have your own record. Every trustee has a record, and it goes out to all the people that need to have that process in their hand. It's very flexible, and it's very I really like it because you can really do a lot of stuff, whether it's online or not. But it's like I'm out here in Hawaii, and a lot of my clients are in the mainland or Europe or Canada or New Zealand or South America, apparently. And we can make sure that that all happens. The communication today is so really significant compared to what we had 20 years ago. And I won't go there, but we'll just say that that's what it is. And the trustee meeting and duties can either happen, in other words, in the beginning, if, we go back in time and just say in the beginning, the client would be the grantor. They would appoint us to be trustees. We would take care of everything on a whatever basis. And then we would meet once a year or twice a year, and we would open the book and we would discuss what happened. And then it would be signed off by us, the trustees, and the grantor, and that would be part of the trust book. And it would be accumulated page after page after page. So that's basically the trustee meeting and duties. It's a collaborative effort to make sure that the assets of the trust are protected. Next. Okay. I don't know about Superman. I'd rather have Supergirl. Anyway, I grew up with that guy. I don't want him in my face. Anyway, the protector. So the protector, there's a clause, there's a page in your document that is a protector page. And the protector must be unrelated to you or the trustees. And the sole duty of the protector is to look to make sure that the trustees are online and there's no malfeasance on the part of the trustees. And if there is, then the protector steps in. If the grantor feels that the trustees are not doing their job, then they would go to the protector and he would say, okay, well, we'll, figure out how to let him go. But he must be replaced by a non-related trustee as well. If he's non-related, etc. If he's related, then you could have a related trustee come in. But you're going to be more diligent when you appoint another trustee. Management is basically when you're you might have a nominee grantor, in which case I leave the management open to whoever you want to come in and manage a project. In other words, some of you have asked to be a trustee or trusteeship, and that's fine. But what we have to do is make sure that that management ability is there at some extent to, let's say, you have a big project coming down the line and you don't want to do it, then you have a basically a 2-page contract document that allows somebody to be appointed as manager, executive manager. Expenses, of course, are always come from the trust if it's a trust expense. And I think I've talked about this before, but I will make it a really poignant view that you must not use trust expenses to pay for your own personal items. Pay yourself as either a trustee or a manager make sure that your trust pays for expenses that are strictly contained within the trust. You don't want to have the trust pay for your personal expenses. So just make sure you don't commingle. Commingling of trust expenses and your personal expenses is really not good. And the duration is, it's basically the duration of the trust is 21 years plus lives in being. I mean, there's different situations. Some people say 21 years and it's done. Some people say at the age of 35, then I want the remains to go to this person. But duration is, in the beginning, is 21 years plus lives in being. And what that means is if, let's say you decide on today and you have children, then it would be 21 years plus their duration of lives in being. So that's just a demarcation mark, that's all. It's fine. You can rearrange that, and if you need to change it at all, you can always talk to me. Okay, Steve, go away. Superman. Beneficial interest. Wow, look at all of those beneficial interests. Wow. Okay, so this is totally up to each client. In other words, you may have a number of children, you may have no children, you may have humanitarian projects that you want to support, you may have a number of things. So all of those things, if they're real, not pie in the sky, but they're real, can be beneficiaries of the trust. Then the distribution will go to them accordingly. In other words, I had a client today come to me and say, I've shifted and I want more over here and less over here, et cetera, et cetera. So that is all a very up to date. And I'm trying to talk to each client, and that this incredible indenture is very flexible and very malleable in the sense that when I give it to you, when you have it, you're going to be able to construct however you would like to see it, as long as you follow the intent of the original indenture. So, you know, I negotiate a lot with the clients, and that's fine. And you know, at some point they get it. Yeah, okay, this is what's happening here, this is what's happening here, and we'll go from there. and it can all be changed. I said, come on, I just sent you the document today. You have to sign it. You have to look at it. You have to understand it. You have to understand what it really means, what it means to the beneficial interest, and it takes some coaching, and that's what I'm here for. Okay. Third parties, yes. Okay, the really amazing thing about a trust is that it can give 100% of its profit to a charity and write it all off, whereas you, as an individual, can only give 50% without being taxed on it. So I'm just saying that contributions from the trust are 100% tax exempt. Just leave it there. Third parties are when you and the trustees deal with third parties, like you enter into a contract to, let's say the trust has a piece of property and it enters into having to negotiate to have construction done, reconstruction, remodel, or whatever, is that the third party can only look to the trust as its contract. Can't go into the assets, can't go into anything. So it really leaves, it's separating. I mean, this is a beautiful icon, Thompson, that you have. It's like this whole thing flows right through. And so nothing is really adhered together. It's very permeable. But yet, in a sense, when you sign a contract with a third party, then you are, if you sign as trustee or as grantor, you are confined to that contract, which is as the way it should be. When you sign a contract, then you're responsible. The confidentiality is that the trustees are under fiduciary responsibility to not say anything to anybody without a subpoena. So that's basically it. If you don't know what a subpoena is, then you should look up peanut butter. Okay. Next. Questions?
Okay, everybody. Thank you, Randall. So we have 3 ways that you can ask questions, 2 of which, if you are looking at this by video on your computer or device, you can either click where the raise hand icon is, or you can type it into chat. And if you're calling in by telephone, you can press *9 on your phone, and that raises your hand, and then we'll answer you as soon as we can get to you. And Randall, we do have one already in the chat. Thanks for the invite. I am in Canada and interested in this type of trust. I have read but a while ago. Question, what is the trustee fees? And also, where would the trust be set up or in which jurisdiction?
If you're in Canada, you would have to establish it in Canada. You can, well, it depends where your trustees are. If you have Canadian trustees, then it would be in Canada. You can have a Canadian address, and you can file for Canadian revenue tax, so you can go into the bank. You can file for a foreign grantor trust EIN number in US. I mean, it's long, complicated, but it's the same idea. is that you're basically going into a contract with, let's say, fellow Canadians. As long as you all play hockey together, I guess that would work. So that's the basis of that, is that it can be anywhere. I have people in Quebec, I have people in Alberta, Quebecians, and everywhere else. We have people in South America. We have people in all over. It's happening all over.
And also, the location is not the same as jurisdiction because it's a sovereign trust.
Location is just where the paperwork arrives. It has nothing to do with jurisdiction. Jurisdiction was where you do your business, I guess, or hold your assets. And that's a question beyond this venue, but I've had people come to me and I've helped them get a U.S. foreign grantor trust address, and I've had other people, just go back to Canada and they've gotten their, whatever number they need so they can go into a bank. I have a client in England and she said, no, I don't need a number. All I need is to walk in with my passport and my paperwork, and it's really easy. So I guess it just depends on where you are.
And she also asked about trustee fees, and I guess you could just explain how there are, 3 different ways that trustees can be appointed.
Well, one is you find your own trustees. 2 is you ask for help. And 3 is there is a trustee service that we, or Tanzan specifically, offers off his webpage. And the trustee service is a very professional service, and it alleviates. I have so many people come to me and said, I don't trust anybody. I don't trust, I don't even know where to get a grantor. So we are, and I think Tanzan, you pretty much taken care of that, where we're going to have a nominee grantor service for a particular fee, and we're going to have a trustee service available, and that'll be a certain fee. It'll be like a down payment fee, and then will be so much per month. So you have to think about that.
We haven't posted it on the website yet, but it is in the newsletter, and anyone who's interested in it can request it of Randall or of our team. And we haven't yet instituted a fee for being appointed. So it's Monaco Management Services. And if one wishes to appoint Monaco Management Services as one's trustee, as one of the trustees, there is no fee just for the appointment to get the trust set up. There are only fees if there are additional services needed on a kind of menu, per item, per hour, right, and that sort of thing.
Okay, good. That's really good. I didn't understand that. That is really important. Is it a minimal fee for a grantor, minimal fee for having a trustee appointment, and then the trustee service is obviously going to be on an hourly basis. And it's probably something we need to talk about, but basically it's mostly on your website where people, I've had 4 or 5 clients come to me today already and say, where do I get the trustee service? And it keeps getting referred back to me, but I need to I don't know where that is, so we're going to have to figure that out. But basically, the trustee would be international. It could go anywhere, can work in any country whatsoever, and we'll go from there. So this is preliminary for us, and we're just starting this, and it's really auspicious that we're doing this, because it's, I mean, for people who are just knocking their head on the wall about, I don't have anybody that I can trust. So now you have a professional, warranted trustee service, which we'll have.
Okay, next we have, do you guys have any case studies to show that people have unsuccessfully tried to sue this kind of trust?
I haven't.
That's a happy problem to have.
I had a client calling me this morning from offshore, and he said, "Oh, seeing all this junk about you guys." And I said, "Well, send it to me so that I can respond appropriately to what you think is there and what is the actuality." So obviously there's going to be stuff coming down where people are unhappy or whatever, but there's never been a legal issue with what we're doing.
So what was he referring to? Must have been some other organization.
I told him to send it to me, and I haven't received it yet.
Yeah, we haven't ever seen any problem legally. We don't know of any cases where anyone's had a trust from Brilliance and Commerce, House of Freedom, sued.
Yes. No. I mean, it depends on the client. You have to remember that if you...
Can you bring your microphone closer?
If you go out on the street and you injure somebody, then it's possible that the trust could be sued. But ordinarily, if you're just doing asset protection and you're doing different things and it has nothing to do with out on the street, then there's never been a suit.
Next question. What are some examples of how trustees are selected? In your experience, how inclined are people to take on this type of responsibility? Are there other members of this group who would be available to be trustees for trusts that they were otherwise not connected with?
Well, yeah, if you want to post, I mean, if we want to create a list or a group of people that are willing to be a trustee, I mean, that's what we're talking about as our trustee service. It's the same thing. So somebody could say, I would like to learn how to be a trustee, and I would be willing to be a trustee on anybody's trust. And be compensated for my work. Doesn't have to be a maximal amount. It can be for a minimal amount, and could be just for relationship. I don't know.
And next, I have written into your email support, and they did a good job of answering my questions, but I noticed they can never provide any links on where I can read up about this trust anywhere on the internet other than your website. How can I be sure this kind of trust will hold up to scrutiny?
Well, unless you want to buy the trust document, it's not going to happen. I mean, it's not about what the pages of the document say. It's how you and the trustees handle the business on a daily basis. It's really just a piece of paper. In a sense, it's well structured, I might add. It's been around for 35 years, and it's how you handle it on a daily basis that's critical. It's not the paper, it's you as either a trustee or a grantor.
I might add that this question stems from statutory thinking, conditioned and brainwashed by the way most of our society is operated, and you have to get your mind out of that. There is no scrutiny because it is, first of all, not submitted to attorneys. It's not posted on any state or government record. It's not public. It's a private contract.
Right.
And it follows international contract law.
Yep.
But like Randall said, there is no scrutiny of the document itself. If there ever is any scrutiny, it's over the actions of the trustees.
Exactly. And that's what I pumped over and over and over again into the client, is that it's really important that every action is written down. It's like a captain on a ship. You need to create a log of everything. Every time you turn the rudder, you have to record it. You have to have a log. And it's the same idea, is that you create a log for your trust document, and then it's all there. And as long as you're doing something that's legal and appropriate, then you're going to be fine.
The next question, so the trustee can be offshore?
Sure. I mean, the communication today is like nothing. Phone call, text, piece of cake. You send we just went through this DocuSign thing. I mean, you can DocuSign anything now online. So there's no sense of, oh, my trustee lives over here and my trustee lives over there. No, you just have a computer and you get DocuSign and you send an email and you say, I want you to sign this, and they DocuSign it and they send it back, and then you store it and it's done. I mean, it's done all over anymore.
I would only add that if the client wishes to have a bank account for the trust, that the banks will usually require the trustee to be signatory on it.
Well, at least one of the trustees, yes, right.
So if the trustee lives at some distance, he or she may need to fly in and appear in person at the bank to open the account. We've heard of some banks that will open accounts remotely, but we haven't tested them yet. It's mostly the case you have to show up physically.
Well, the U.S. banks in particular, I ran into that problem last year, and I had a really, really copacetic banker, and she signed all my stuff via FedEx. And then the bank came down and said, we can't do this anymore. And they basically dissed her. And so now I have to go to the mainland if I want to open up a mainland account. If I working on a couple of accounts here, but they still want the trustee to walk in as well.
All right, next question. Hi, all. I'd like to know how this trust can hold up against divorce proceedings. I was also told that when writing a prenuptial agreement that I have to provide full financial disclosure. Does that include having to disclose this trust?
Sorry. Yes, if you've taken something out of the relationship, get back here. um, if you set this trust up before a divorce, then you would only have to say that, yes, I have a trust and I might have a beneficiary, but there's no necessarily agreement to disclose what's in that trust. That's why Kennedy's and whoever that line of presidents were that we've had for the last 20 years, they never disclosed anything other than they have, oh, I'm sorry, I have a blind trust. I don't know anything about it, so I'm out of here. I would think that's up to your divorce lawyers. I don't quite know how to handle that beyond that.
Well, basically, the trust has no obligation to disclose its assets for the liabilities of any of its individuals.
No way. In fact, the trustees are under fiduciary responsibility not to disclose anything about the trust unless there is a court subpoena.
Yeah, usually the issue is regarding individual liabilities, not trust liabilities.
Right, exactly.
Okay, next, would you need a notary for the creation of the trust?
No. The only time that I have a notary on the trust document, 35, 38 pages, depending on what you've got involved with it, is for Addendum Schedule A, which is for foreign currency, which date stamps the fact that you have assigned your foreign currency to the trust. That's all you need.
Yeah. Okay, next, does the indenture contain a clause declaring that the trustee is not liable for actions of the trust and the trust is not liable for the actions of the trustee?
Yes.
Simple answer.
Do you want me to read it?
If it's quick and handy, yeah.
Okay, so here it is. Trustees shall be duty bound to observe high standards of good faith and loyalty to the trust and the management of trust assets for the benefit of beneficiaries. A trustee shall exercise to the best of his abilities reasonable care, skill, and prudence. However, no trustee shall be personally liable for any action that he may have taken in good faith while performing his duty to the trust.
There you go.
So basically, no, the trustee is, as long as he's not creating malfeasance on his own, there's no liability on the trustee. I've had a number of questions like that, and it's if you're doing your job, then there's no malfeasance and there's no accountability.
I'm not sure what happened to your video, Randall. It seems to be stuck on a still image. I don't know if that's the case, how it's showing for everybody else. Oh, there it is. Okay, it's on again. Now, we have adding to the divorce question. I would prefer not to disclose the trust. However, if I have lots of money in the trust and I have been living off of it as a beneficiary, then wouldn't the ex-wife be entitled to some of the money in the trust as someone who was living with me?
That wouldn't occur unless that other person is also a beneficiary. I mean, that person might be able to tag part of your beneficial interest, but in the way we write the trust is that if anybody argues with where that money's going, then the trustees can withdraw the units of beneficial interest and put them back in the trust until you've straightened out your divorce mess.
That's called asset protection.
Yes, that's exactly why we do this kind of stuff. And it's not to take away from your partner, but if you haven't figured out your partner's stuff first, then you got to get on it and figure out, okay, how do I deal with this? I mean, it's like anything in life. If you're in a contract and you want to break it, then you got to figure out how to break it on an equitable basis.
Yeah, of course, obviously one ethically would want to be fair and generous, and at the same time, the instrument, the trust, gives one control over over what one distributes. Yeah.
Well, and the fact is that maybe this trust was set up before the marriage happened, and so accordingly, the partner does not. If she's not a beneficiary, then she would have no control over the equitable interest in the trust.
Right.
Oh, the gold.
So this question, to protect the privacy of the trustees, how about them appointing a limited trustee who only represents the trust in interactions with agencies and lawyers, etc.?
I wouldn't do that. I would, just have two trustees that help you run this endeavor. And then if you need somebody, then you find somebody to help you out. Otherwise, why go there? It's not necessary. This is a private contract between you and two trustees. And unless there's some action, there doesn't need to be any third party involved unless you entertain a contract for whatever you are going to do under that contract.
We have a hand up. JB is calling in. You are unmuted, JB. Are you there?
Yeah. Hi.
Can you speak up?
Hello, everyone. I have several. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, JB. Hi, JB.
Hi. How are you?
I
haven't spoken to you in a while, although I left you a message.
When?
Okay, I have about 3 or 4 questions. I go about 4 or 5 days ago. I put it on your cell phone. But anyway, I have several questions. Somebody recently... Oh, I figured. That's why you get a client call about 3 times a day.
Right.
Well,
I have disposable.
I have a
disposable
question.
Have disposable phones.
They're probably the best. A track phone.
What can I do for you?
Okay, I have about 3 or 4 questions. Is that okay? Can you hear me? Townsend, yes. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay. Somebody recently told me that you cannot wire out an irrevocable funds from an irrevocable trust. It's illegal. Is that true? Like, let's say you want to wire millions of dollars out into another trust.
No. No.
And they said it's not illegal with a revocable, but it's illegal with an irrevocable. Are you
Not
sure?
true, JB.
Okay, well, they're reading it from a trust document, which I'll send to you. Okay.
I don't care.
Um,
My trust document says that you can take any of this money and it can give it to any place it wants to give, as long as it's a paper trail and it's accordingly to the trustees.
okay. I ditched
Irrevocable.
my grantor.
JB, what irrevocable basically means is, and what that person may be confused about, is that the settler, having made a transfer of assets to an irrevocable trust, cannot then force, by legal force, those assets back to the settler or grantor.
Himself. Exactly. Perfect.
That's all that means. It doesn't mean the trust can't wire funds out.
Well,
No,
explain that a little bit further. Huh?
The trust has got to do business, right? If I'm going to do business in Indonesia or Japan or Europe, I've got to be able to wire money out.
No, but what is this with the grantor? Because the trust, you don't have to have a grantor. You can ditch the grantor, and they can pass the trusteeship onto you, for instance, and they no longer have a function. So how are you defining this, Tanzan, where there's a
What do you mean, JB? The grantor relinquishes all control on the signing of the document. So the grantor, she has no control to pull back any kind of asset from the trust. However, the trustees, and maybe the grantor is a manager and doing some really good projects, that management and the trustees can enter into any kind of contracts anywhere in the world.
Okay, but in my situation, I do not have a grantor at all.
So what?
Relinquish the
grantor. You don't need a grantor.
Okay. Okay, that's good. But so that's fine. I just wanted to know because you mentioned that this is a non-grantor trust.
It is.
So
it's an irrevocable. No, you're confusing some words. It's an irrevocable trust. That's all it is. It means the grantor cannot take back any of the assets, and the trustees and the management have the ability to do anything legal anywhere in the world.
Okay, now if you have a successor trustee and they're just so busy, they can, their dynamics, their family dynamics have changed, and they don't have any time to do what a successor trustee should do.
Get another one.
How do you fire them, though?
Get another one. Just get another one.
Okay.
Tear the paper up and get another successor trustee.
Well, I mean, it's just their names are throughout the trust document or in places.
Okay, so that was in the past. Okay, it's been dated, it's been established, and now you're changing the situation. You're getting a new, either a co-trustee or a new successor trustee, and that's the present time.
Can you make hand changes, cross out certain?
Yes.
Is that acceptable?
Or print a new page.
Okay, good. Okay, I think that's all I have. Thank you.
You're doing great, Jan.
Oh, I know. I'll get it as soon as I put the operations through. I find that's the problem for me is knowing how to work the trust. So
You
once the
overcomplicate it.
trust is
Okay, so are
in,
you still interested in having a social group? Because I had a couple of clients ask me about that.
yeah, I would love to have it where we're reviewing it and discussing it together, but no one contacted me.
Well,
So yeah, I would like to have a study group. I think that
okay,
would be
fine.
great.
I will turn people on to you as long as you're willing to let me share your email or phone number. I think
Sure. And I think that would be great.
you gave it to me
I'd
last
love it.
time, and we'll go from there. All right?
I'll text it to you. Okay, thanks. I didn't know because I think it's just great. We can go through it and what their interpretations are with it and then come
Great.
back with questions for you or Tanzan, you know? So sift through this thing. But operating the trust, once you physically operate the trust, everything falls into play. Right now, it's just, it's just like reading a textbook.
Well, of course.
I want to be able to use it.
Of course.
Yeah, I want to be.
I
You can say
understand. I
that.
understand.
You can say that. You've used different trusts for 40 years. It's not that easy for those people that have not worked this trust and with lots of money.
Jan, it's really simple. It's just a contract between you and the trustees. And you just do it like you would do a business. It's not
No, I'm
complicated.
sure.
I
Well,
just don't
you
want you
said
to get convoluted on this. So let's leave it there. You can do it. I know you can do it. You're an intelligent woman. So let's leave it there. And then I will send me your phone number, your email, and I will make sure people get a hold of you if they want to have your group, because I've had a couple of inquiries about that.
okay. Now, one more question: the grantor nominee that you can pay for on the outside. Would I ever need it? I mean, can I just
You don't need it anymore.
hire a
You
manager?
don't need it anymore. You don't need, once the original document is signed, the grantor has basically relinquished all control. The grantor is not needed anymore. And now what's needed is for you and the trustees to make this thing viable and flexible and productive.
I understand, but both you and Townsend spoke about the grantor being pivotal in the trust. This could be a different kind of trust, or you're adding the grantor.
No, only in the
When
beginning.
would you have it? But when would you hire a grantor nominee?
You need to have a grantor to create the trust. Okay, that's all.
Yeah. Oh, okay. From the beginning. Okay. Okay, fine.
Once it's signed and he relinquishes control on a certain page, then he's done.
Okay, good. I mean, I thought there was some other function because you interchange that with a manager. So I thought once you needed a manager for a certain task, then you would hire a grantor nominee. I thought that was interchangeable.
JB, if you play the role of the grantor, then you sign off. You can change hats and also play the role of a beneficiary and also play the role of a manager. But other people choose to be trustee. If you're trustee, you cannot also be grantor. And so those are the people that need to nominate a nominee grantor.
Ah, I see. So I can also hire a trustee so that I'm not a trustee.
Yeah.
And this way I can be grantor and beneficiary.
Why would you be grantor? You don't need to be grantor. You want to be a beneficiary, and grantor stuff is over once you've signed the documents.
Well,
The grantee.
I just know so many people. I just know so many people, Randall, have grantor trusts, and they stay
I know
grantor. You can choose to be.
that's a revocable trust. That is not an irrevocable
Oh,
trust.
Yeah, and it's not
oh,
worth the
okay,
paper
good,
it's written
good.
on for asset protection purposes.
Right.
Okay, that's my understanding also. So great. Okay. Don't think there's anything else that I have here for you.
Well, we have some other people waiting for questions. If you want
Thank
to
you.
ask some more things,
Okay.
be
All
sure
right,
to
Jan.
raise your hand again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so next we have is transferring assets from one natural law trust to another natural law trust a taxable event?
Depends on, all right, an example would be if you have an asset in one trust that's worth $100 and you assign it to a second trust that and the asset value has gone to $200. It depends on whether the beneficiaries are the same, in which case it would not be a taxable event because those beneficiaries have maintained their value. If you have an asset for $100 and you sell it for $1,000, then the trust may have a taxable event, which could cause the trust to have to pay a tax. But as long as you transfer an asset to another trust and the same beneficiaries are in place, then it's a non-taxable event.
Well, now you're going over my head, Randall. How would that be a taxable event in any case?
Well, you and I have had this conversation a long time, and I don't want to get into tax ramifications on our whatever we have here because it's too complicated. But rather talk about the event of how to make the trust work, not the taxable accountability of any trust or any. I didn't mean to go over your head, and I just don't want to enter the tax situation. It's not worth it.
Sure, okay, I understand. So it's a private matter that can be discussed privately with clients,
Yeah.
and it varies from situation to situation.
Yes.
Okay.
Because it depends whether they're. I'll just leave it at that. Let's just leave it. Okay, let's go on to something else.
All right. The next question is, unless I'm mistaken, the banks have to report all balances in the account to the government. Now, if a bank account is opened up for the trust, does this reporting not happen anymore? In other words, I know the funds in the trust account are non-taxable, but I'm curious to know how that works and the difference between a personal account vs a trust account on the bank's side.
I have no idea what the reporting requirements are for any bank, so I don't know. I've never had that issue. I've had plenty of bank statements, and there's never any kind of saying from them that they're reported anything to anybody.
I can say the same. Yeah, and everybody we know who's used these trusts would probably say the same.
Yeah. I mean, I've never even seen it on my personal account, so I don't understand where that question came from.
Okay, next, in a family, how distant a relative qualifies as unrelated for trustee or beneficiary purposes?
Well, supposedly it's blood, marriage, and whatever. So, I have some. No, I don't know. You're sleeping in the same pot. I would just say please go outside your home and your relationship and your friends and your employment and find a trustee. And if you can't do that, then think about our trustee service that would be absolutely distant from you.
It could be a friend, no? Yeah.
A friend is non-related. That's what I said. 2 friends or 1 friend and 1 family member. It's okay, but you can't just have a family member be your trustee.
Well, the question was, how distant does a relative have to be? I mean, second removed, third cousin or something?
You want to clean my ears as well as pick my brain? No, I mean, try not to. Yeah, I'm sure you could get away with it, but I'm trying to keep a distance between people and who they have on their trustee board. I mean, come on, we're offering an incredible service here where you can have a nominee grantor and you can have nominee or trustee service, and then you're really legally separate from your assets.
Maybe helping would help to answer that if you explain the reasoning behind it. What's the reasoning for why the trustee cannot be
Trustees by law cannot be related by blood, marriage, or employment.
And what's the reasoning for that?
Just the way the law is. Case law over time has said if the trustee is supposed to be independent and unrelated, then it needs to be unrelated by blood, marriage, or employment. I mean, I can go into my law books and dig up all the case sites, but that would be confiscation to the max.
Yeah.
Is that the right word? Confiscation?
Confiscation.
Yeah.
Confiscation. Okay.
Just take that principle. No, trustees can't. One of the trustees cannot be related by blood, marriage, or employment.
To the grantor or settler, right?
Yeah.
Right. Next question on the subject of family law. If I am involved in a child custody battle and we each need to provide financial disclosure to prove we can financially take care of the child, how do I use the trust as a way to show that I have the financial means to provide for the child without actually owning the something? Do I simply show to the court that I am just a beneficiary?
You'd have to get with the trustees and you'd say, I have this question that's come from the court and I need your advice, and I would like to make this assets in the trust independent of me, but I'm willing to pay my share of child support, and the trustees would concur or not, and it would go from there. So it's just a situation where you would confer with your trustees before you give an answer to the court.
And maybe it would satisfy the court if the trustees were to agree to a certain amount, perhaps distributed monthly, and it would sign. Perhaps the trustees would sign a commitment like that and give it to the court.
If that's what the court's looking for, and if the trustees agree to that, then you're right on. Yes.
Okay. And the response is perfect. Thank you. And those are the questions of the moment.
Great. I think surf's up. It's a beautiful day in Kauai. I'm sorry for all you guys that live on the mainland, but
well, you'll have to have a conference and invite us over at the Regis or something.
That's a good idea. Why don't we have one over here?
Yeah.
Well, they're gonna no. Regis is shutting down for a year. They're going to redo it. And then a year from now, after we've got a lot of education on the people, we'll have everybody show up. I don't want to go to Europe. That's the wrong picture. But we could all come to Kauai, and yeah, it would be great. But let's just take question by question. Is that it?
That's it for now. I guess if you want to organize it, we can accommodate, or if somebody else wants to organize it, then they can help.
A year from now at the Princeville?
Why that long?
Because it's closing down. I'm sorry. I just told you. They're closing down for a year. They're going to remodel it, and it's going to be a minimum $500 a night.
Oh, St. Regis?
Yeah, of course.
Oh.
Anyway.
Well,
all right. So by that time, I may have a house on the beach, and we can do it there.
We can also do a cruise around the islands.
Absolutely. A polyester pantsuit cruise.
Okay, everybody. We have today being November 7th. We also have our next webinar, January 9th, 2019. And for viewing past webinars, go to brilliance-videos.com. For those who do not have a trust and wish to purchase one, go to the link provided to you by your affiliate. For those who need general information and don't have a link, use houseoffreedomtrust.com with dashes between each of the words. And we have a lot of other services as implied. We have a lot of other products and activities and information. Subscribe to the newsletter if you haven't already at that website. Click on newsletter sign up. For those who don't have a phone number, 360-200-7521. It's our company number. Randall, we have someone saying, hi, I have a question, which is of topic.
Okay.
And that's from Victor. But Victor, that's all we saw on your chat. So if you'd like to squeeze in one more question, perhaps we can entertain it before we close out.
No worries.
And someone else writes, thank you, lots of love. Thank you for that. We appreciate it. It's returned to you. It's mutual. We're very grateful for everyone who has been participating. And Randall, you've been telling me continuously how much you enjoy the clients. And I think they'd enjoy hearing you say that.
I do. It's amazing. I mean, I just love it. Marissa often comes in and smacks the door open. She said, you've been on the phone for 2 hours. Come on, I need some time here. And so we go back and forth on that. And
is she jealous that you're more in love with your clients than with her?
No, that's not. We've been together too long. That's not the issue.
Okay.
You just says, come on, you've been talking too long. Come and talk to me a little bit. So I do, and then I go back to my clients. But what was the question so we can... Okay,
Victor says, I bought a debt elimination package and I'm from the UK. How do I edit to suit the UK system? So Victor, that's a question not pertaining to our trust webinar.
Right.
Would you please be so kind as to send that in to our ticket system? You've been given in your Liberty system a link for tickets so just send that ticket in and we'll be happy to take care of you. Truby writes, says, how does a trust take ownership of agricultural land, a farm, and how do I separate the homestead, the house, because they are two different entities?
Easily. You have a deed for each one. Okay, so I don't know whether you have a trust or not, but let's say you have a trust, ABC Trust, and you want to assign the land and the house to the trust under separate deeds. So you would write a document, you and the trustees would write a document, and you would say, we're assigning ABC land document to the trust, and we're signing BCD household to the trust. And then you need to go down to the county with a trustee and say, we as trustees are going to record ABC land doc and a BCD house doc to this trust. We want to have it recorded in the county office.
Yeah, fairly simple.
It is, but you got to go to the county, got to separate it out. You got to have when we were in California, we had to have a meets and bounds land survey document, and that was one document. And then I don't know what it's like in Hawaii, but I think it's similar, and I probably everywhere you have a land document that has the parameters of what the space is documented, and then you would have a deed for the house, and you would take them to the county and they would say, okay.
Well, it looks like some more questions have come in before we wrap up. Once my trust has been set up with my child as beneficiary, if I have another child anytime after the trust has been set up, can I simply add a beneficiary? Do we also have the power to remove beneficiaries?
Yes. Yes to both.
Yes.
It's just a yes to both. You and the trustees must just put a minute in that you've added another beneficiary or you have taken off a beneficiary, etc.
Peter comments, thank you. You are making it like no big deal. And yes, Peter, that's the difference between statutory entities and especially the House of Freedom non-statutory version of the trust contract is dumb it down, make it plain English so anyone can understand it with a high school education, keep it simple, and it's way more powerful that way. It's actually been more effective, less trouble. People tend to think that if it's more complicated, it must be better. And we disagree with that.
Oh, Tanzan, you and I, we just pound it into the clients. Keep it simple, keep it simple, keep it simple. And this is a very flexible, malleable contract. And you have to adhere to the certain principles of the initial indenture. But after that, it's up to you to make this thing your liveliness. I'm talking about, really encouraging liveliness in this trust document. It's just like, okay, let's go play now and let's do some things. And we just have to record it and make sure that the trustees are in accord and we have it all under scrutiny and nothing's illegal. And, we're not bringing in 100 pounds of cocaine. That was in the 80s. We don't need to do that anymore. So let's just bring in the Age of Enlightenment instead.
Absolutely. JB asks, do you ever turn over any part of a trust to a title company for insurance, etc.? If so, what part? I think she means the pages. What pages?
I need to see that question again or hear it again.
Well, like a title company for insurance, say on a property, and let's say the trust owns, I'm assuming this is what she means, assuming that the trust owns a property and you want to take out insurance and the title company needs to see the documents of the ownership.
Right. So you and the trustee, one trustee at least, would go to the title company and say, this property is owned by this trust and we want to take insurance out on the property, and there it is.
And we would never want to present the entire trust document to any institution, but what pages from the trust would be relevant there?
Well, this is another one that we go through. In the old days, you didn't have to take anything but the abstract, and now a lot of the bankers want to see the whole trust indenture. And so what I encourage the client to do is to put it in the 3-ring binder. And if you have to go to the bank and they want to see the whole process, then you paperclip or microclip the minutes that are private, and the rest is, hey, take a look. Here it is. Nothing secret here. So I don't know. That's a question we've dealt with for a while, Tanzan, and I think that it's doesn't matter anymore. As long as the minutes are protected and private, then the rest is not a big deal. It just basically, a lot of people are going to want to see what the indenture looks like, and a lot of people are going to want to see what the signatures look like, and they will ask for licenses and passports, etc. I mean, when I went to Europe and we did all that stuff. I mean, we had to present passports and licenses and fingerprints. So I don't know. It's like everybody wants a different story. And I have a client in Mexico that I have to deal with because they say they don't want to deal with it. And I'm saying, well, it's just a contract. Just tell them it's a contract. So I'm trying to deal with that. And Canada's been easy. Europe's been easy. The girl in Europe said, oh, all I need to open up a bank account in England is my passport and the document. So she's fine with that. So I don't know. It's like it just changes everywhere you go. There's different people want different things. And like I said before, when I was in California in the 80s, as a general manager, you could just walk into the bank and open up an account. And now they only want to do it if the trustee is there. So it's changing, and everybody that's doing this needs to be flexible and open to coming back to me if they get stuck and saying, what do I do here? What do I do here?
Muchas gracias. Mahalo. Merci.
Merci beaucoup. So, you play hockey, eh? You're a hoser, eh?
Okay.
Where'd you get that purple grass?
Yep. So.
All right.
Randall, thank you.
Oh, God. It's my pleasure.
I think it's a wrap.
It's a wrap.
You take 2.
Actually, I have a wrap waiting for me to devour.
Okay, everyone. Thank you. You've been wonderful. We've had great questions. It's another good educational session. Randall, we're getting ready for the January webinar, and everyone subscribe to the newsletter if you haven't already. We'll announce it there. And have a great rest of 2018.
That's great. I'm going to talk about how many days before Christmas? All right, Tanzan. And all you people, I just really love to do this. So keep sending me questions and we'll go from there.
Okay.
Aloha.
Thanks, everyone.